Hello everyone and welcome to the second session of NPTEL course in pharmacognosy and phytochemistry. In the previous session, we have learned what is pharmacognosy and phytochemistry and the scope of the subject. Today we start delving into drugs, that is drugs that are obtained from nature, which are often referred to as drugs of natural origin. So let's understand the different drugs of natural origin. So drugs of natural origin can be obtained from different natural sources. They can be obtained from plants. In fact, majority of the drugs which make their way into the drugs of natural origin through a natural pharmacy are mostly plant based. A little minor part of it is animal based products. Then you have your microbial based products and mineral based products. Now whenever you have drugs of natural origin, they can either be in form of organized drugs or they can be in form of unorganized drugs. So let's understand the difference between the two. So whenever you say organized drugs, it means that they can be generally sourced from plants, animals and microbes. When you say organized, that means they have a proper cellular structure. That means the cellular organization is in them is very much intact. So take for example plants. In plants you know that there are tissues such as xylem, phloem, there is a proper cell wall which is covered by cellulose, you have your cytoplasmic membrane and so on. So your cellular arrangement, the tissue arrangement is very clear. Now not only that, even when you powder these drugs, even in their most powdered form, you will find the cell or the cell organelles intact in them. Such type of drugs are called as organized drugs. Now one good thing about this is whenever you have such organized drugs in your medicine, their identification becomes very easy. Say for example, in this case, I have just put a section. Now we call this as a transverse section, and this is a transverse section of a stem, and it is a plant called as ephedra which gives the molecule ephedrine. Now you can clearly see that there is a nice cellular epidermis to it, and this epidermis has a papillose cells which you can see as little yellow dots at the pointer, and you can see here your xylem, phloem elements, and this band like thing are your pericyclic fibers. So not only the cells, the arrangement of these cells, the nature of that drug entirely can tell us what drug it is. Now even if it occurs in the powder form, certain unique features such as your stone cells, such as your phloem fibers or typical arrangement of your xylem and phloem in organized drugs help us identify them. So a good example of organized drugs would be definitely your ephedra stem, senna leaflet, ashwagandha root, cloudbuds, lot of things that you see in your kitchen, your cumin, caraway, they are all cellular in nature. Even if you cut them, you section them, or if you directly take your garam masala and put it under microscope, you will see a lot of cellular arrangement. You will see a lot of tissues, xylem, phloem, you will see maybe your what is called as oil ducts, and all of them will help us identify what it is. So such type of drugs are called as organized drugs. Now when you come to unorganized drugs, they do not have cells. So they can be obtained from either plants, animals, microorganisms, or even minerals. Now minerals, there is no question of cellular arrangement at all. But when it comes from plants, animals or microbes, they are chiefly the metabolites which have been pulled out or extracted from it. This extraction can be a solvent extraction, it can be a distillation. Sometimes even giving a cut on a plant can cause it to exudate some fluids. We often refer to them as gums or resins. This may be, some of this exudates may solidify, some of them may remain semi-solid, or some of them may even remain liquids. So all of them have one common feature. If you take this liquids, or if you take this oils, or if you take this extracts and put it under microscope, there is no cell going to be seen. So they lack cellular arrangement, and as a result they are called as unorganized drug. Unorganized drugs are relatively difficult to identify, but may be identified by their chemical properties, that is the chemical they contain, and they can be identified organoleptically. So depending upon what structure they take, what chemical properties they possess, you can identify this type of drugs. A good example is your aloe vera gel. You can see it, when you open the aloe vera leaves, you will see a slimy, tissue inside it. Now this is still cellular. Now blend it in a mixer and extract it in water. You will get a exudate which is liquid, and because you filtered, all the cellular debris is gone, and what you are left is just the carbohydrates coming out of it. So aloe vera mucilage which is coming out, agar agar which is obtained from your sea kelps, your gelatin which is obtained from your animal bones, and eucalyptus oil obtained from your eucalyptus leaves are good examples of your unorganized drugs. Here you can see a resinous drug. Okay. So it's a oleogum resin drug called as myrrh. So myrrh is one good example of unorganized drug. Now moving to drugs of plant origin. They are numerous. Like I said, majority of your nature's pharmacy comes from the plant-based drugs. So it is difficult to put all the examples here, but I am just putting some representative examples. Say for example, some of these plants, the leaves are medicinal. To state Vasaka, that is your Adulsa, Senna, Tulsi, mint, aloe vera, the leaves of these plants are very medicinal. In some cases, the medicinal part may be a bark, that may be your cinnamon, that is your dalchini, cinchona which is used for fevers, malaria, arjuna. Then in seeds, you must have consumed linseed when you have cough, or your mustard which is used for preparation of your culinary as well as mustard oil. In some cases, the stems may be medicinal. During the COVID season or nowadays, you get a lot of teas containing your giloy. That's your Tinospora. It's a stem. Ephedra, we just saw the example of which gives you ephedrine. That's also a stem-based drug. Now, some flowers are medicinal. So in this case, if it is unopened bud, you can have your clove. Clove is actually a flower. You can just take one from your kitchen and try opening the dome of it. You will see your corolla, that is, you will see the petals part of it, and inside you will see anthers. So if you have it in your kitchen, just give it a try. Your cassia or saffron, calendula and hibiscus are some examples of flowers which have medicinal values. Now when it comes to fruits, there are fruits which are medicinal. So take for example your graviola or sour soup, which is nowadays used in cancers. Pomegranate, we've seen that pomegranate contains a good amount of pigments called as anthocyanins, which are antioxidants. Not only that, the peel of pomegranate is rich in tannins and often used in making face masks and anti-aging creams. You have your amla, which is a rich antioxidant, myrobalance, which are used in your Triphala churna, are some examples of medicinal fruit. Now coming to roots, these are the underground parts. You will see your licorice roots, Rauwolfia, Ashwagandha, ginseng are some of the famous medicinal roots that are used in pharmaceuticals. When it comes to unorganized drugs coming from plants, you have your dink or acacia, you have your papaya latex, which is used as a proteolytic enzyme mixture. Then you have your eucalyptus oil or some enzymes that come from pineapple. We call it as bromelain. They also have proteolytic activities. These are a few examples, but like I said, there are lots and lots of drugs which are taken from plants. Now moving to animals. Now one humble animal which gives you a lot of drugs of natural origin or substances of natural origin is your bee. So from your bee you will get your beeswax, which is used in cosmetics, which is also used as emollient. Honey. Honey is considered to be demulcent and it's given in cough. They also research which shows that it has an excellent wound healing and antibacterial properties. Not only that, whenever your bee stings, that bee sting is due to some peptides present in it. So bee sting is actually a mixture of peptides, and a majority component of that peptide is one protein called as melittin. Melittin in a large dose is very painful and is responsible for the stinging effect of the bee, but in small doses it has proven to be anti-inflammatory, and a lot of research has gone to show that this molecule may also be a potent anti-cancer agent. Not only that, sometimes bee produces a substance called as bee propolis, which is a mixture of saliva, wax, honey, and it is a rich anti-inflammatory compound. So bee propolis grains are also there in market nowadays to give you a good defensive effect on the body. Apart from that, you will have your wool fat, which comes from your sheep, gelatin, which comes from most of the bovine animals, cattle, and bones of it, enzymes which are produced from pig or cow. Basically, the intestinal enzymes or the stomach enzymes initially were taken from it when the recombinant technology was not as advanced. Then you have your cod liver oil, which is a rich source of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin A and vitamin D. Not only that, sometimes vomit of an organism such as whale is also very prized. A substance called as ambergris or whale's vomit, it's very prized. A kg of it can fetch you crores, and that is something which is used in the perfumery industry. So these are few animal based substances. Moving on to microbes based substances. Microbes very economically give you substances called as antibiotics, and we use them the use shouldn't be abundant, but we often use them to curb infections. Now, microbes also provide us with a rich source of enzymes. Now, these microorganisms, when they thrive, in order to thrive, they need to digest the organisms or they digest the plants in order to get food from such sources. So, they secrete enzymes such as amylase, glycosidase, pectinase to hydrolyze the substrate and to get the sugars out of it. So, this microorganisms are cultivated for it in fermenters, and the enzymes are collected. Once collected, they can be of your utility. Then we have carbohydrates such as your xanthan gum. We have your insulin. Now, initially this was an animal based peptide which we were using, but now with recombinant DNA technology, many of these enzymes are prepared by microorganisms. So, you have nowadays biosimilars. Now, many of them are actually genetically engineered so that your microorganisms can either help or aid in producing it. Not clearly, but sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. So, if it is a 2 subunit, microorganism A will produce one, microorganism B will produce one, and there it is joined in case of insulin. Now, you have algae based products. One good example is spirulina, which is considered to be a space food. So, it is so good in nutrition that NASA have taken it to space for their astronauts. Now, apart from that, your microorganisms are also rich source of carotenes. Nowadays, a rich antioxidant, a lipophilic rich antioxidant in market is your astaxanthin, which is again produced by microorganism. And fungus such as ergot, which grows on your rye, is a good source of ergot alkaloids, which gives you oxytocic like activity. So, these are few examples of microbe based drugs. Now, moving on to minerals, you have numerous minerals which are being used. You will see the most easy example is your talcum powder or talc. This is commonly used for dusting. Then you have your kaolin, which is used as filter aid, asbestos, glass, bentonite, calamine. Calamine is used as a soothing agent, especially for blisters and burns, and mineral pigments which are used for their hue or color and used in your cosmetic industry. Not only are they used, minerals such as titanium dioxide are also used in pharmaceutical industry as a opacifier and an aid. Now, moving to unorganized drugs, there are numerous categories of unorganized drugs. Just to state a few, it includes gums, mucilages, latex and resins, oils, juices, extracts. So, what is the little difference between all of this? Let's try to understand. Now, when I am talking of this category of unorganized drugs, I am chiefly talking about unorganized drugs of plant origin. So, let us see them and understand them one by one. So, when we say gums, gums are basically polysaccharide derivatives which a plant produces when you injure it. So, when a plant is injured or when a plant is under a stress, it changes its carbohydrate metabolism into a process called as gummosis. This process of gummosis creates gum, and from that wound or from that cut which you have given to the plant, you will see a liquid oozing out. Now, this liquid is chiefly carbohydrate in nature but contains complex polysaccharides. So, this includes sugars as well as uronic acid derivatives. The purpose is to seal the wound so that it doesn't get infested without any other things. So, these gums are a good source for us when it comes to a lot of pharmaceutical aids. These gums are capable of absorbing water because they are polysaccharide in nature, sugars in nature, they have a tendency to absorb water and swell. So, they swell. Now, when you consume it, unlike your starches or simple polysaccharides, gums are not easily digested. They are digested with difficulty because they are a little complex in nature. Depending upon their linkages, their digestion rate varies and are considered only partly digested by humans. So, they can be used variedly because they absorb water. They are excellent binding agent. So, if you seen your acacia or dink, it is used for making laddus because it has a good ability to act as a binder. Now, you have them as disintegrants, emulsifying agents, suspending agents. So, emulsifying agent is something which helps you, when there is a biphasic oil by water. When you triturate it, it forms little droplets, we call it as emulsion. So, emulsifying agent, if they are not there, what will happen is over a period of time again the water phase and oil phase will separate. But because there are emulsifying agents, it forms coating on each droplet, they will no longer fuse and form a biphasic mixture. So, they will no longer fuse and separate as phases. So, emulsifying agents, then you have suspending agents because they have or impart a good viscosity, make your solution very viscous. What happens is your powder doesn't settle down. So, because the powder doesn't settle down, your powder remains there for a longer duration of time. In case of certain drugs which are insoluble, we want such kind of action. So, they act as a good suspending agents. Not only that, because they are polymeric in nature, they encase your drugs into a matrix and then they release it very slowly. So, if you want a slow release or what is called a sustained release profile, even in that case your gums are used. A good examples of gums are your acacia, tragacanth and sterculia gum. Now, moving on to mucilages. Mucilages as compared to gums are physiologically present. That means you need not injure the plant. It is already there. It is not there in every plant, but some classes or some families of plants do produce it. So, they act as a slimy adhesive material. I will give you a good example. So, if you know your bhindi, okra, or if you know your isabgol, or if you eat flaxseed, that is your linseed, when you chew it, there is a slimy thing coming out. Or even in your aloe vera, you will see that jelly thing. They are clear, they are slimy, they are rich of sugars and they contain sugars, uronic acid, plus there are sulfated groups present in that. So, there are sulfates also present. Now, they are there in different plant parts, but mostly you will find many of them, They are there in the epidermal layer or outer layer of seeds, barks and leaves, which make them extensively slimy and difficult to handle. So isabgol, I'll just show you a quick video out here. Now this isabgol we've kept in water, and you can see it has taken up water and formed a very slimy, viscous, gelatinous mucilage is what you call it as, viscous mixture. Now this thing, when I put it under microscope, you will see that this is the seed part of it. Now this seed, in presence of water, in the seed coat there is a mucilaginous layer. Now normally the seed would appear as such, but because I put it in water, this mucilage has swollen. Now this mucilage can be stained with a staining agent such as a ruthenium red, which reacts with the sulfate groups present in mucilage to impart a reddish coloration. So you can detect it. So even when you take your nimbu pani containing your chia seeds, or faluda containing your chia seeds, you will see that they have a nice outer coating, a halo-like thing next to them, which occurs when they are immersed in water. That is your mucilage, and it can be stained by your ruthenium red. Now going on to the next category are latexes. Latexes is something you observed in some plants when you break the leaf, or when you break the stem part of it or the flowers, you will see some milky white liquid coming in. Now this plants possess something called as lactiferous ducts, and in that is located an emulsion called as latex. So latex is basically an emulsion which have been stabilized by carbohydrates, proteins and enzymes. Now because it's an emulsion, it has a water phase as well as oil phase. The water phase has mostly water soluble compounds such as carbohydrates, proteins, enzymes, and certain glycosides or flavonoid derivatives, and the oil soluble fraction has lipophilic compounds. So some sterols or other compounds may be present. Now this, depending upon the plant, you must have seen a good example of that is Calotropis or Rui. So you must have seen that whenever you tend to break the leaf of this, you will see that milky white liquid coming in. Or this is the second example, is little inaccessible to us, but if you heard of something called as opium, opium is actually coming from this poppy capsules. So this poppy capsules, when you just make a tiny incisions with blade, what happens is the latex come out. Another example of latex is when you take your raw papaya and cut the green peel out of it. Again you will see the milky white fluid exuding out. Now what happens is, on exposure to air, this latex dries and in certain cases even browns due to oxidation. Now examples, like we said, are even your ficus species, that is your Ficus bengalensis or your ficus trees are known to produce latex. Now this are used in tenderization of meat. Your papaya is used in tenderization of meat. Analgesic, your opium latex contains morphine, which is used as analgesic, and to certain extent Calotropis is used as an anti-inflammatory agent. Now not all latexes are safe. You must have encountered that certain times if you see a raw mango, you cut it, and if this raw mango latex touches you, you get a blisters. Now certain times, especially of Anacardiaceae family, to which your mango belongs, you will see that they possess compounds called as urushiol, and urushiol are toxic phenolic compounds which cause blistering or or allergies. So these compounds are very allergenic in nature. They cause urticarial rashes. So even your bilwa, or what you call it as your Semicarpus anacardium, it contains bilavolol, and bilavolol also produces blistering properties. So you need to be careful while handling drugs containing latexes. They are very potent but may contain your medicinal compounds as well. Now going to the next, they are resins. Now as compared to your gums, resins are more in terms of their chemical nature, terpenoidals. So these are also produced when you have incisions given. They are produced through resiniferous ducts which are present, and they contain terpenes. Now this terpenes, what happens is as they exude out, they get oxidized, they get polymerized and gives you a resinous secretion. This resinous secretion is called as resin. A good example is your pine resin, myrrh resin, your chili resins which is located inside. So, you know, your pepper spray, you could take your chili and soak it in oil, mostly your resins come out. Your turmeric resin, your gugul, your hing powder are all examples of resinous extract. Now, depending upon how it is processed, like I said, most of the terpenoidal compounds do oxidize. In some cases, as they stay, their fossilization or during their fossilization, many of the volatile compounds are lost. Sometimes they occur as native resins, sometimes they occur as resin combination. So when resin combination happens, along with the terpenes, the oil will also come out, giving rise to oleoresin. A good example of oleoresin is chili and your ginger. It is combination of oil plus resin. In some cases, you get oil plus resin plus carbohydrate. In such cases, they are called as oleogum resin. A good example of oleogum resin is your hing powder. So it's oil plus it is your resin plus it is your gum. So whenever you kind of triturate it, because there is a gum present in it, you will get a milky emulsion with such kind of drugs. Now the next category of unorganized drugs are your lipids. Lipids are lipophilic substances which are present in certain plants. Now this lipophilic substances may be oils. So you know when you press your groundnuts or your dry fruits, you get the oil out of them. Such oil we call it as fixed oils. Now fixed oils, apart from that, are fixed oils are triglycerides in nature. If they are solid at a temperature below 15.5 degrees Celsius, we call those triglycerides as fats. Now in some cases what happens is this esters may be very long chain. So esters of monohydric alcohols with long chain fatty acids, they come together to become what are called as waxes. So waxes, example is your beeswax. Whereas fixed oil, your example is your olive oil. Whereas when you say fats, you can imagine your dalda, vanaspati ghee. They are solids at room temperature. So hydrogenated vegetables oil mostly. So apart from that, another case of lipids is essential oil or volatile oil. Your aroma of rose or your lemon oil, the thing that spurts out when you remove an orange peel. They are also oleaginous or lipophilic in nature, but they are essential, that is low boiling. So this class of compounds are called as volatile oils. Fixed oils are generally used for cooking, whereas volatile oils are generally used for aroma. Fixed oils are generally fatty acids or fatty derivatives in nature, whereas when you see essential oils, they are triterpenoidal or phenylpropenoid derivatives. Now moving on to the next category of unorganized drugs, they are your simple derivatives such as plant juices and extracts. Now plant juices are your juices. So you squeeze the plant and whatever you get is called as plant juice. A good example of plant juice which is medicinal in nature is your papaya leaf juice, often given to patients to treat dengue, in which your platelet count goes low. So papaya leaf juice has a property to increase the platelet count. In a similar manner, tulsi juice is given as an antitussive for cough as a remedial therapy. Now extracts on the other hand is when your solvent is used. So if I take my tea powder and boil it in water, my solvent happens to be your water. So when I take or dissolve the compounds in a particular solvent using temperature or even at a room temperature, because the solvent is used, which can be a water, alcohol, ether, depending upon what I want to remove or what I want to extract, you have your extracts. So good or simple example of extracts are your tea, coffee, or even your katechu. Katechu, you know, is something which is used in your pan masala, katha. So this is your pale katechu. What is used in your pan masala is a black katechu. Pale katechu is also used in medicinal for its antimicrobial properties. So these are few examples of unorganized drugs, and here are few references if you wish to do more reading about understanding organized and unorganized drugs with their example. So thank you everyone for your patient listening.